And I think we're live. I hope we're live. I've never had to start one before, so I'm hoping that this is live. Is it live? Can somebody in the chat say something? Live now. Hey, it is live. Okay, great. But I don't see any comments. All right, cool. So whenever I see something, I'll talk about it. So right now, I'm just going to kind of go over the whole thing. I click on that and it hides it. Okay, great. So this is like if the tree falls in the woods, can somebody hear it kind of thing? And I'm entirely unsure. So why not? So I'll just treat this as a regular show at this point. And because I'm going to record it and re-release it. Hey, Autobot Al, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I'm sitting in my garage dying because it was 90 degrees today. Here's a sample of the shirts. I'm a model now. Even got hats. Not made in USA. So the it's quite an accomplishment for, at least I'm excited about it, having 500. Nice swag. Yes, it's available at I'll put the link in the bottom of my online store. I'll be throwing it out there on my YouTube page. I even have mugs. Good stuff. I think I have I think I have lunch boxes. I've done it. I just put on everything because to hell with it. Do I have large print for shirts? Yeah, well that's the print. No, I'm not drinking Sambuca tonight. This is my first live. I'm just drinking water because it's 80 degrees in my garage and I have the air conditioning on, if you could hear it. I wish I was drinking Sambuca right now. Okay. So I have something interesting I found. We need a shirt that says DJ Clutch. Yes, my staff is working on that. She is very hard to get going, and it's not puzzle. It's actually my daughter. She can design things, and I've been asking because I want that one. I have a great idea. I think you'll love two of them. Classy looking garage. It's okay. It's a little stuffed in here. I try to keep it as nice. I got both the cars are out. Got my BMW and the Charger sitting here. And I got some pictures my buddy gave me that he made. I got to frame them. I had no place to put them, so I'm kind of like that. So let me go. I have this really weird story. I stumbled upon this today, and this is really strange. Nobody else was talking about it. Let me just do full on this. Now I'll just sit down here. So brand new muscle car granted Mopar license to unleash classic power and style. No, Puzzle doesn't wear a bow tie. She's a girl. It's the Slick that wears a bow tie because he's an assistant. Okay, so I saw the story. Brand new muscle car, original from scratch muscle car builder, proudly announces its official license with FCA USA LLC. The collaboration will allow them to produce classic continuation builds, classic muscle car restorations, and craft breakthrough resto mods, all under the legendary Mopar name. David W. Miller, president of Brand New Muscle Cars, expressed his enthusiasm. We are thrilled to be licensed by Mopar. Classic Mopar vehicles with their big power, wild colors, and iconic body lines have always held a special place in our hearts. Operating out of a renovated auto dealership on a sprawling 10-acre facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Brand New Muscle Car and the sister company Unique Custom and Restorations of Tulsa boast more than 30,000 square feet of design and fabrication space, along with the offices and a showroom. And they go into the different levels of car. And it's just really strange because they license this so basically they can build a brand new car like a 70 Cuda or a 70 Challenger or a 72 Charger if they wanted to, and I can't get a trunk from my car or a set of fenders. I find this fascinating that Stellantis did this for the old car. They licensed out the old car stuff, but there's almost no support. And here's their website, and like these are brand new cars. Like that's a brand new Mustang, that's a brand new Camaro. So they modify things. They make right-hand drive for those people down there in Australia or in England, and it's actually really fascinating stuff. So this was just something I stumbled upon today. It was just really weird that our buddies at Stellantis are now, licensing out Mopar brand to this company that will make brand new cars. It's kind of fascinating. I just kind of thought that was interesting and one of those weird things in life. So, hey, does anybody actually have any questions since I'm here and I want to do an AMA? And besides the wonderful shirts, which I will, of course, notate where to put those, where you can get those. Come on, any questions? I'll be here for a whole hour or so. Because otherwise I'll start talking about Stellantis and the Hornet because that's actually a comedy show. So, did I tell you it's really hot in this garage? I actually wish I could have my cat out here, but she's not very good in garage. So, all right, well then we'll move on and we'll talk about this. It's more of Stellantis and their wonderful marketing team. So that last year, Stellantis was at the Super Bowl last year. They went and they did a promotion that this was the car that was going to replace the Charger and the Challenger. And it is now the top 10 slowest selling cars in the United States. They sold 7,000 of them in a quarter. They have almost a 2-year supply of these things laying around. So once again, good on you. And then of course there it is, like the head performance vehicle. Pretty great. So God, I put everybody to sleep with the article. I'm so sorry. Oh, and then of course talking about Stellantis. All right, I'll stop talking about Stellantis. Hey, you know what? So I don't know if anybody out there, if you actually work on stuff. I went out and I bought all these. Oh wait. Oh Jesus. Really? Okay. What are some of the EV updates with the Tesla Cybertrucks? They look like Judge Dredd should step out of them. Yes, he should. Actually, there was two stories that happened. First, the National Highway Safety has said that their gas pedals stick, which can be kind of dangerous in a 10,000-pound vehicle. It can just run out of control. Yes. And the other one is I saw a story, somebody took it through the car wash and they basically, how can I put it, bricked it. So it rolled out of the car wash and just stopped dead because I guess it got water in places where it shouldn't get water. So there's our Tesla update because it's, it's very entertaining. And of course, Stellantis wants to join that fray. Oh my God, Megaforce. Cybertrucks look straight out of that movie, Megaforce. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I mean, if you're going to make something different, why do you have to make it ugly? That's all I ask is, I understand it was, I think, a dare, but my God, remember when cars actually were pretty and they looked nice and everybody wanted to actually drive one? Yeah, those were the days. I like those days. So Tesla is going to have some interesting things going on with their Cybertruck, which is just now starting to roll out. There's actually one in my area, and in person, it's even uglier than the pictures. I didn't think anything could be uglier. Oh, okay. this is actually a pretty cool question. All right. Because, government is never good for anything. Dennis, what are your thoughts if Biden takes away our gas for our antique cars? I don't think that A is going to happen because the oil and gas industry is enormous. You can make it $8 a gallon, $9 a gallon, which is very possible at this point. But, the good thing about these types of cars is that I can make a still and put it in my backyard and I can run my car on ethanol. I mean, granted, I'll get like 6 miles to the gallon, but I can run them on ethanol because, well, it's an old car. So that's kind of that let's see. Oh, let's see what this one is. Well, no, they will never all conform to a universal plug. Well, actually, I think they are, but you can't retro them because the new ones are supposed to all be the Tesla plug because they came out first, and it's just one of those things. I think it's going to be almost like the phone chargers. Okay, here we go. What are some of the basic tools you need to start working on your car for basic things? All right, well, the first basic thing you need is a good wrench set, in either metric or standard, or both metric standard, a socket set, 3/8, quarter inch, and 1/2. You don't have to have all, just enough of them. You need a multimeter. Without a multimeter, you can't do anything. You need a good set of screwdrivers, a good set of pliers. A multi-tool is really useful too. I use that a lot because it has pliers and all sorts of extra things on there. And the other thing is, just to read on is knowledge. That's the other thing you really need is you need to read about basic stuff. Oh yeah, you need a car. That is true, and one you can work on because if it's something like this or something like that, you can work on them. But if it's like my F-150 outside, yeah, no, you need a computer or an OBD2 adapter, and then you have to look up codes and yeah. But the basic stuff, is just good set of hand tools, a multimeter. A multimeter will literally get you out of like all sorts of problems because that tells you if voltage is happening, tells you if a fuse is burnt out because you can do the ohms on it and see if it has any type of resistance. Yeah, I mean just basic stuff. I mean I have an entire garage full of stuff, and I have tools I discovered. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I had that. And actually, a neat thing, and this is on Amazon, and I'm not getting paid for this, but this is a air conditioning sniffer, and it's good in case you have a leak in your AC system. You turn it on, it beeps like that, and when it gets near an air conditioning thing, it makes a tone, and you can actually figure out where your leaks are. Even if you don't work on it yourself, at least then you'll have an idea what's wrong with your AC when it's not working, because we're coming up on summer and I'm already in it, but that would probably be another little thing just to have. I'm trying to think what else you would need though. Razor blades. Honestly, no idea how often I use razor blades. They are like they are the universal helper for mechanics everywhere, because that's how we open packages, clean things. It's a big thing to have. Also a good set of gloves. You can get them at Harbor Freight, like a few bucks, like just cloth gloves, so you don't, in case when you're handling things, you don't burn yourself. These are basic tools you need. Oh, okay. I like this question. Wow. Top 5 classic cars. That's a hard one. Because you have to pick only 5. Okay, so what I love is mid-60s, mid-sized Fords. I love those cars. I like the Fairlanes or the Thunderbirds, like from '65. There's something about those cars that you just can get in them and cruise. Number 4 would be uh, I would probably be like a 69 Super B, or Super B over a Roadrunner, just because it's a little more comfortable. Number 3, of course, is a 72 Charger. Um, they're very well, very well made, good ride, uh, and I have one. Number 2 would probably be a Superbird. I've had the pleasure driving one. I think it's really a fun car to drive. It's wild. You do get noticed in it with the big fin and the nose cone, and I just think it's just it's one of the coolest cars you can have, and it had every engine option, big block, that you can have. It had a 440, 446 pack, and a Hemi, so it was a great car. And then, of course, number 1 is, and it's always been my favorite, is 1970 Charger. I love the loop bumper on the Charger. I think it was the pinnacle of their design. As much as this car is aerodynamic, that I think that it it truly with the big bumper up front made a statement, and they improved the suspension that year, and you can get a fresh, that was the only car you can get a fresh air hood, but you can get all the engines in it, from a slant 6 all the way up to a Hemi. So that was kind of cool. Okay, Al, favorite cars from movies. Oh, well, let's see. Christine. I love 57 Plymouths, and Christine is just an absolute evil looking car, and I love that it's that. Uh, the Charger from Bullitt, the 68 Charger RT, that absolutely kicked that Mustang's ass up and down. That was just fabulous to watch. The DB5 from the James Bond series. I actually have a model of that car. I fell in love with that car. I absolutely love that car. And the Ferrari from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, because that's so classic. I'm sorry, Sky Spectre. I'm really not a Chevy guy. I think the 69 is probably the best looking one, because that's the one that has the hidden headlights, and you get the RS and SS on that. That was a pretty good car. But it got limited to the 396, so you couldn't get a 454 in that. Let's see. Reliable, reasonable price, first car for a teen. Now? Oh dear God. Because I've been looking for that. And the list is getting very short in these days, because when they did the Cash for Clunkers, a lot of cars that would have been good candidates got destroyed. Even if they would have been 25, 30 years old, they were good first cars. And I, so the Toyotas, anything in the Toyota line from the early 2000s, BMWs, 3 Series from the early 2000s, usually with a stick, because you get a little more mileage out of them. Some Mazdas, if you could find them, like the 3, they're not bad. They're pretty well made. The engines are nice. If you could find a Ranger with a stick in it and the 4-liter, that's also a very reliable truck. It's a very small pool at this point, because you don't really have the old luxury cars like you used to have, that you can get real cheap because they're old luxury cars. Now an old luxury car is garbage, because now you have to try to fix it. So yeah, this has been a nightmare trying to find this. Yeah, always some work needed. Yeah. All right, let's move on. What movie was that killer car in? I think it was slightly modified Black Lincoln. you're not talking Christine, because that was a Fury. That was a 57 Fury, and that was the killer car. Steve McQueen's Mustang. Steve McQueen, actually, interesting fact on that. Steve McQueen actually destroyed that Mustang. He folded one of the wheels under the car, the front left wheel. He folded under the car because he was doing his own stunt driving. And oh my God, the director went, okay, Steve, you're not driving anymore because you're going to destroy this car. They spent a lot of money to upgrade that Mustang so it wouldn't fall apart being chased by the Charger. The Charger had 0 modifications, and that is actual fact. So hence why I love. Oh, I forgot about Vanishing Point. I've actually seen the Vanishing Point car. I guess that's one of. I didn't get the finish. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love that, especially the desert scene. That is a very good scene in that movie. But actually, somebody brought one of the Vanishing Point's cars. There was the 383. It was one of my shows. It still had the dirt on it. Let's see, 65 Chevy S has an Evening Orchard Point Suite. I've never seen the movie. I guess I have to watch that. Evening Orchard. Oh, you have hidden headlights in your 68. See, I love when they went to the hidden headlight. It really made the car look much more elevated over a Mustang. In looks department, very much so. But 68, was the 327 still available? Because, see, the 327 with the hidden headlights, for me, would be a very good, of course, with a Muncie rock crusher. Oh, Better Off Dead. Yes, I want my $3. Let's see. Eddie Fit. Well, I don't know. I'll debate you on that because my grandfather had those for his cab, and all I hear is my uncle was talking about how those motors would, just eat themselves. Maybe my grandfather bought the cheaper ones, so I don't know much about the 50s inline sixes. Oh, yeah, okay. So Sky Spectre said, yes, you can get a 327. So, yes, if I had to have a Chevy, I would have that one with a 327 and a rock crusher because did I say $3? Things just fly out of my mouth. So, yeah. But, yeah. So I'm, when we watch TV shows and I always, especially if you can find shows from the 60s, I will sit there. I will literally pick out every car that's going through. It's kind of fun. Oh, and hold on. So Frank, what are your upcoming projects? Oh, dear Lord. So I am going to be doing brakes on a Super B whenever they come in because it's a 2-year only disc brake, and we're waiting for it to come in. One day I'll get back down and work on the Oldsmobile because I have the carburetor is sitting over there. It's not on the car, so I can't really go anywhere. So I had to contact the owner, and I have to set up a play date to sit in his parking lot and finish the brakes and get the car running. Can you see why I'm not enthused? It's a little. I'm on a main street, under an antique car, on jack stands. This is great. And so but I'll be doing the brakes, and I'll be getting it running. I'm hoping within the next month, so it can be done before summertime. I have a few projects with my Charger that I'm gonna do during the summer. Because there's just a couple things I need to work on. I had to change out the differential, so I'll do that, and I think I'm going to do some maintenance on the transmission. And that's when we don't use the car in the summer. I'll be doing a lot of the maintenance right here in the garage. The BMW over there is going to get some love. It's been very neglected. It needs to go to it's a little tweak, so I got to get it to a frame shop, and then I got to do some TLC on it because it deserves it. That's a good car over there. I mean, it's like the last of the classic BMWs. And I did a little point on that trying to think what else come. I'm gonna do a thing on cooling on your car because I've that's the big thing on forums, especially now where we're starting to get into summer. A lot of people always have questions on how to keep their car from overheating, and a lot of times people do things that are counterproductive to actually making the car run cool. So it's like, I'm going to do basically a whole workup on why and how, because I've done all the things on my own car. And last week I went to a show. I was up in Inverness, Florida. It was about 50 miles away. And in the afternoon, it was like 82. And I drove back with the air on, of course, the roof open, because that's what you have to do. And the car ran at the thermostat. Never got hotter, just ran at the thermostat. It was as happy as a clam. So that's those are some of the things coming up, and of course I have a big Mopar show next week, and I'm going to help out tomorrow, and I'm gonna have stuff from that, and it's a doozy. It is utterly a doozy. It's gonna blow people's minds. Oh, thank you, Sky Spectre. Yeah, it's let me get up for a second. Yeah, it's Cirrus blue with an indigo interior. Of course, I have seat covers because can't get the material. But yeah, it has it for all that looks on that car. That car has 250,000 miles on it. Seriously, the original engine. Oh god, a Stern reference. Is the Charger your love of your life? Actually, yes. I actually have a glass. I left it inside. It says "First Love," and it's a picture of the car. So yes, it is. All right. Ooh, a 78 Toyota Corona. Wow. There are a lot of those. Um, it has the 4 in it, right? I imagine Toyota had decent tolerances, probably 10W30, but you need to use stuff that has zinc. Royal Purple would be a good one. That's what I use in both my cars. It has a lot of zinc in it. It has a lot of protection for heat. You can use synthetic in there. The synthetics don't do any damage or anything. They don't shrink. They don't shrink seals. But that's what I would put in that thing, because I know those engines are built like clocks. So probably a 1030 if you're in a moderate climate. Here it is. Give us your background. How did you get into cars? When was your dad or family member into them? A friend? Okay, great. So cars were a very early thing with me. It was on my mother's side of the family. Always into cars. They my grandfather had a taxi business, so he had lots of cars. And then my uncle had a 69 Super Bee when I was a little baby. He took me in that car in a baby seat, and I was being driven around in a Super Bee. And so all my life I was just around the cars. My uncle would have car of the week, and I really mean this. Like one time he picked me up from school, and I went to a Catholic school, and the nun was like, "Do you know that man in that car?" I said, "Oh, it's my uncle. I think he just bought another car." I was like 8. He had just bought an Electra 225, or as everybody around where I grew up called a deuce and a quarter. And so I just found it fascinating the way they worked, and I would help him and assist him when I was like 9, 10, 11, and then you gradually get sucked in, and then you actually start doing work when you're 12 and 13. And I found that I enjoyed it because I'm very analytical and very methodical, and working on cars is that way. Then during high school and actually during college, I worked at a gas station. I actually, why am I lighting it weird? I actually went and I did basic repairs, and I did fix tires, and I did all that type of stuff. Um and when I was 12, my no 13, 13, my uncle bought this Charger, and I kind of skipped ahead to the thing. And I was down in Florida with him when he bought it. I don't know why I was here, but I was here. And he took me out for a ride, and I fell in love with this car because first of all, I'd never seen anything like it with the sunroof, and it had 78,000 miles on it, and it was just such a cool car. And I'm like, I'm gonna have this car when I learn how to drive. And we held on to it. My uncle drove it for a while, then my mother drove it for a while. I remember we were going down the shore and we blew out the mufflers on it, the muffler on it. That was fun. And I actually figured out how to fix the sunroof on it because I had it broke. Because I'm very methodical when I work on cars. So I figured out where to get parts for the sunroof because it's actually very common, but not common because it's used across Fords and Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen. They all use the similar cassette. So that's where I figured, and also in General Motors products. So I actually ended up getting, hooked on it. And it's always been a very consistent, fun thing for me. It is my hobby. Obviously, if you can tell by this garage, it's a car guy's garage. I used to play golf, and those things are going to Goodwill because I don't touch them. I don't have a need for that because my hobby is my cars. I have fun with them. So yeah, that's how I got into it, and I just I have fun with it. It's fun for me. Taking apart a carburetor is so relaxing. It really is. So. All right, frame off. See, that's a Chevy thing. I did a full restoration on this car. It's a unit body. It was down to unit body when I did it. This car was a mess. It had been up north, and because it was bought in Spitzer Dodge, Ohio, and it was a company car, and they actually kept it. And it was up north, and the guy moved to Florida, and he traded in for a Grand Marquis. And Chryslers of the 70s were not built well when it comes to rust proofing and durability. So I had to do everything. I had to do 2 front frame rails on this car, new fenders, new hood. The bumpers had to get re-chrome. That was expensive. The interior is completely new on it. I rebuilt the sunroof. That's the 3rd trunk on the car. That the 318, I pulled the 318 instead of rebuilding it. I had a 340 that was just ready to go. Bought the 340 with the transmission, found the rear end, and I made a funner car for me to drive. While I can, I still have the 318, and I have the entire drivetrain that can go right back in this car, in a weekend, and it'll be what it is. But that's the extent I did. On that BMW, I actually rebuilt all the suspension, all the driveline, everything, and all the electrical I redid in that car because it's a BMW, and these are things. The only thing I have not touched on that is the transmission and the engine. So there's that. Hijacking Rod. Oh, what was my first car? The 1972 Charger. This was my first car. I drove this car to high school. I've had this. I've been the owner of this car since 1987. That it's been in my family since 85. I've owned this car since 87. Yeah, I know everything about this car. And I love going to car shows when somebody says this was their first car. I said, so same here. Yeah. Takes them a second. Oh. Any cars I regret not buying? Any cars you regret buying? Yeah, actually, one car I regret not buying, and it's weird, is this. I had leased a 2005 BMW 330i, and I had to turn it on a lease, and it has popped up a few times, and I'm kind of regret not buying it again. I love that car. That car was fun. It wasn't as interesting as the 325, but it was. Regret buying. Over the long term, I'm thinking I bought a 95 Thunderbird. I got 100,000 miles out of it, but in that time, every piece of plastic broke in it. I broke 3 torque converters on it. It was an absolute pig on gas. It was very down on power, had the 4.6 in it, and it just was a blah car. I mean, it was heavy. I used to go through brakes on the thing every 6 to 8 months. I was doing front brakes on it, and so yeah, that's a car I'm really kind of looking back on. Yeah, I don't know if that was really a great buy. I ended up just dumping it to get my first BMW. Let's see, bastardize a 64. All right, my friend wants to bastardize a beautiful 64 Impala SS with a sunroof. What are your thoughts on this, Fed? No, absolutely not. Especially aftermarket sunroofs. They're the reason that people say, "Oh, does it leak?" Because the aftermarket ones are never made as well. This thing was a body in white when they put the sunroof in, and they had the ability to cut and take their time and had no interior in the car and just, do what they needed to do. I mean, the work is so, but it doesn't leak. It's very well made. So no, tell him no. Tell him to buy a car with a sunroof in it already. She hates it, but she doesn't realize it keeps me out of trouble. She just doesn't get it. I'm a Chevy guy and don't know Chrysler. Are the frames built into unit bodies? Sort of, kinda. Chrysler was the innovator of unit body. They did it with the original Valiant 1961. Very ugly car. It was his own line. But that was the first unit body car because it was able to cut like 500 pounds of weight off of it because I wanted to put a slant six in the car. That's the car the slant six was developed for. And what it is that you take squared steel and you square it up and you use the body panels as reinforcement. So basically everything from the cowl back to the trunk is tied together. And it keeps it relatively sturdy and lighter. It's fairly strong, except when you started getting over 400 horsepower. Then you had to, well, the Chrysler on the 446 pack and the Hemis, which 400 horsepower. They put they boxed in the frame rails, and that's how you tell it's a true Hemi car. It has boxed in frame rails to help reinforce it because it gives an angle so they don't twist. But that's how Chrysler was the innovator of that. Chrysler was the engineering company. Too bad they had terrible management and didn't know how to manage money. So there's that. Do I have a lift? No, I don't. I don't have room for a lift. I have an 8. Trust me, I've measured it twice. I have an 8-foot 8-inch ceiling. I can't put one here. So I'm relying on my friends that have lifts and go over their places and get the car up in the air when I need to, because I really hate laying on the ground. Seriously, I'm working on hopefully sometime in the future moving to a place where I have the ceiling and lift, so I don't have to deal with this anymore. And of course, some better air conditioning. Oh, no, I didn't do an electric. I didn't put it moved from the car. It's actually came in this car. It was done by American Sunroof Corporation for Chrysler. Chrysler was the second company in the United States to offer factory sunroofs. Ford was first. Chrysler got jealous and started throwing it in the Charger first. They sent the car out to American Sunroof. I actually have a video on it. You can go, it's a little ways back, but I did a whole history of American Sunroof. And it's actually kind of fascinating the way it came about. Oh, yes, it was. It was, especially with the sunroof. It was pretty nice to have. I know I was very blessed to have it. Very blessed. But at my school, a lot of the kids already, they had one kid had a Pontiac GS with a 350 in it. There was a 69 Super B, not Super B, Roadrunner convertible. There was a few Mustangs. There was a lot of older cars at my high school. So yeah, but it was cool because the people know I had the Charger. And it was just something different, especially back then because it didn't matter. Gas was $1. So when I grew up in Staten Island, and when you drive around, I was getting 12. It's just, I mean, it was just traffic. You got 12 miles a gallon at 318. And it didn't matter because the gas was $1. So, it was fun. Ooh, a 1M? Yes. Yes. I've driven those. Those are animals because that is literally a 3 Series. They cut like 2 feet of the car out, and they made the 1 Series out of it, and they put all that horsepower in that little car, and they gave it a wide body, and yeah, that is an awesome little car. The M2 is also very awesome, and the reason they call it a 1M is because the M1 was a supercar they built in the early 80s, I believe, with their inline 6. It was actually a very cool car, very low production, but that one number for them is a very big deal for BMW. Very big deal. Let's see, Frank. What do you think are the top things new classic car buyers should look for when buying a classic car? I have a video on that, but I can summarize. All right, first, make sure that it is what it's supposed to be. I mean, that's like a big deal because I see a lot of cars that are missing just fender tags or anything that can identify it as what it is, because that can be bad. You should know what you're looking for and what you're looking at. That's number one, and then figure out where your price cap is. That's number two. The other thing is make sure you have a place to put it, and make sure you can either work on it or know someone that can work on it, because those are very big things. The other thing is that when it's been worked on, find out, you need to find out what shops did the work, be it engine, transmission, differential, paint, interior, because you want to know, you want to know if those places did good work or they just filled the body full of mud and just sprayed it. That's why buying a car at auction is kind of silly unless you have real verification on it. You're gonna get burned. There's a Dead Dodge Garage actually pulled a car from Mecum. It was a Charger RT, a 69, that they actually use copper compression fittings for the brake lines. Yeah, that's dangerous. So yeah, but that's me. I actually have a video on that too in my growing library. What did Frank have? Oh, he had a 70 Pontiac 454 as a kid. Gas station again, yeah, but that 454, the Pontiac 454 is an animal. Oh my God, that was actually one of the few engines that could keep up with the Hemi. I mean, that was an animal of a car. The torque they made was just crazy on that thing. I know that Chevy said they made more horsepower, but the Pontiac torque was insane because Pontiac, they make tons of torque with that 454. And also the machine work that Pontiac did in their engines was beautiful. It was German-esque, because on a Chrysler, when you take the engine apart, you're taking out slag and you're trying to clean up all the passageways because they look like garbage. And on a Pontiac, you take it apart, you don't even need to put gaskets for the valve covers because they just seal. They're such a good car. Let's see. I agree on the 400 horsepower problem in the unit body. I twisted a 70 and a half Camaro SS in half with a 600 horsepower small block. Enjoy your shows. Keep them coming. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, 600 horse. Once you get up to 600 horsepower, if you hook up, stuff will break. It'll break fast. Yes. Oh my God, that had to be an experience. Oh my God, that had to be one hellacious small block. That's crazy. I love it. Let's see. Oh, do I watch any restoration shows? Any that you like, hate? For restoration shows, it's not a true restoration show, but I like Bitch and Rides. I think the guy does real work. His stuff is nice. When you see the cars in person, they don't look like garbage. Also, Counts Cars. Also, not restorations, but the guy does real work. I've seen his cars in person, and I'm like, this is a good, well-made car. I used to watch Graveyard Cars, but a little too much drama. And when they started rebodying cars and trying to call them original, that's when I kind of drew the line and went, "Yeah, I'm done with you guys." They rebodied a General Lee, and they said they weren't rebodying it, even though there was nothing left of the car except the back window frame and the two side rails. That's a rebody in my mind. So there we go. And also on YouTube, I like Uncle Tony's Garage. That's fun. Dead Dodge Garage is fun. Kiwi's Classic, because they're all very down to earth, and there's stuff that you and I could do. G Canada, DJ's Garage stole my 750 Holly double pumper and put it in a 4-cylinder from the 80s. I could actually make that work on a 4-cylinder from the 80s. I'd have to jet it down to almost nothing. But good Lord. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's, oh no, the Canadians are all here. Oh, gee, I wonder who Dr. Linda Gator is. Does your wife drive either of your classic cars? She's allowed to. She can. She has driven the Charger. It doesn't like her. It may work for her now. I've done a lot of stuff, so it should be a less temperamental. And she used to drive the BMW because she can drive a stick shift. It's very impressive. She owns a Bronco, and now she takes that everywhere instead of taking the poor BMW, which just sits there. So yes, she can drive either one if she like. Let's see. Oh, the 429 Cobra Jet. Yes, 429 Cobra Jet was an absolute animal of an engine. My uncle bought an FBI car. It was an no, it wasn't a Fairlane. I think it was an LTD. It was an LTD. It was a 71 LTD FBI car. It had a 429 in it. And we'd be rolling down the road at 50 miles an hour, and he'd hammer it, and we would spin the back tires. Like literally just spin them on dry pavement. There's a few cars I know he regrets, but that pulling the engine from that car would have been probably a good idea. What's my secret for keeping my hands so clean? I never seen a mechanic like that. All right, I had to confess. Yeah, I wear gloves. Most of the time I wear gloves. Yeah, I'm a big sissy. I wear gloves. I just don't like having dirty hands. I also moisturize a lot. I use a lot of olive oil, so it helps keep them clean. Oh, my nails are a little dirty. I did some stuff early today, so I got a little gack there. But yeah, that's the secret. Oh my God, G Canada split my 80 Mustang Cobra in half, so I feel the pain. Broke the freaking good. Oh my dear God. That was the new Fox body too. That was the second year of the Fox body. Oh dear Lord, that's pretty impressive. Though those cars are notorious for twisting. You must have done some real work on that car to be able to do that, because that was an anemic 8 that year. I think it only had 145 horsepower, and they had 2.8s. They had like the 302, and then they had some other smaller 8 that no one remembers. But good on you, I guess. I had a buddy in college. He went out and bought an 85 Mustang GT T-top car. And this was in the early 90s. And already the T-tops were kind of sitting kind of crooked on the driver's side. Yeah, driver's side from the twist. But that car was great because we went out in the middle of the parking lot. I'm like, I think you should be real careful driving this. So I sat there and it was wet. And I just dumped the clutch and we did a full donut. That was fun. The hardest car I've ever had to do spark plugs on. It literally was the hardest car ever. It took me the Ford allotted time to do the spark plugs on that car. I did it in like an hour and 10 minutes to do 8 plugs. Yeah, that was miserable. Utterly miserable. So tight in there. Ford always had the tightest engine compartments because of the way they built their front suspensions. Always had the tightest engine compartments. That Chrysler with the torsion bar gave you a lot more room. That's why it can fit such wide engines in there. Yeah. So, but trying to think if I know anybody else that's broke. Well, yeah, no, I don't think I've had anyone else that broke anything in half. That's really good. I've seen people shear axles. Those are fun. The wheel comes out, and it's kind of great. So yeah, but actually twisting, that's pretty impressive. Wow, that's good. This has been very fun. I'm excited about this. I'm glad. Uh, I can't wait to put up my next video. So if I do have my next video, oh my God. So I have a next video hopefully coming out tomorrow because I'm finishing the editing on it now. And it's on repairing my radiator. I actually resoldered it. So yeah. All right. Let's see. G Cannon, not many Cobras built that year. I took a 302 and built the motor like it was 91, 92, 330 at the wheels. Oh my good Lord. Yeah, you needed to tie that together. You had with 330 at the wheels, you had to tie it because the 225 freaking twisted that car. Oh, Wheeler Dealers when it had Ed on there. Ed was the greatest mechanic I've ever seen. Dude actually had things that were just like great. He actually had a tip, and I still use it, where when you do a transmission line, you take the top of your glove and you cut it off at about here, and you shove it into the transmission line and fold it over, and it won't leak. I'm like, excellent stuff. Real mechanic. Guy could fix anything. He has a YouTube channel, and it's pretty good. Let's see. Chevy Monday V8, how to remove engine or replace spark plugs. Okay, that's pretty bad. That's almost like that's Porsche territory. That's Ferrari territory. Good Lord. What's the Chevy Monday? What country are you in? That's you must be down. It's either well, it has to be Australia. Let's see, what a classic. I had all the options, so the sunroof made it more twisty. Yeah. T-tops were even worse. T-tops were bad. Oh, what classic car insurance do you use? I have been using JC Taylor car insurance since the mid 90s. I literally had, they're a very good company, very competitive rates. Their service is pretty good. Their coverage is fair. They don't really, screw around, and they are on the bottom end of the pricing, because some of these guys are like Haggerty. They better like come and like polish my car once a month, because they were literally twice the price for the same coverage. And yeah, I'm gonna have to increase the coverage of my cars because of inflation. Monza. Why won't YouTube say Monza? I don't know. That's weird. Oh, a Chevy Monza. Oh, like a Chevy Monday. A Chevy Monza. Oh my good Lord. Wow. Yeah, that was a small car, and to make that fit, wow. Yes, you should have put frame rails in it. Yep. Then then you fixed the rear end, and it broke the frame. Yeah. So you must have put a 9-inch. You put a 9-inch in there. You took the what was it? They had an 8.8 in there. You put a Ford 9-inch so it wouldn't break, and then you broke the frame. Oh, Automotive Al had the ultimate cuisine car, as we called in New York, the '87 IROC Z28. Cool. Oh my God, was that the 305 or the 350 version? Because there were two versions, and that was like the iconic '80s car. And you know what the funny thing is? The funny thing is that you can't find them anymore, and you also can't find those Mustangs from back then. It's like most of them got wrecked or twisted or destroyed. Those are like the hardest classics to find now, are those '80s muscle cars, the revival of the muscle car. Literally, outside of the Grand National, it's really hard to find those other muscle cars from that era. It's a very, very weird time. A very, very weird time. Uh, I guess they were just abused because they were the only game in town. Let's see. Yep, G Canis is, yeah, exactly as you described. Yeah, seen it. 79 Camaro is my quintessential 80s car. That had one of the ugliest dashes I've ever seen in an automobile. It had those square gauges that made no sense. Yeah, but you're right. When you at every early 80s movie, yeah, usually the douche drives a 79 Camaro or an 80 Camaro. Because they changed what the body style, what, in 82? They went to the more modern one. And then because they saw the Ford had come out with the Fox body, and they were like, "Oh, they're selling a lot of those. We need to get in on that then." Oh, you had the two-port injection. Nice. Yes. That made all the difference in the world on those cars. It really did. On the Mustangs, either one of them, it just brought the engines to life because of all the stuff you had to do. The only way to get real power was to have two-port injection on them. And of course, Chrysler being broke and just coming out of bankruptcy, they were still running carburetors up until 85 on the cars and 87 on the trucks. Carter had gone out of business in 85. So they were starting to use quadrajets on their trucks up until 87 when they finally went to they went to the central fuel injection, which is so bizarre in that Chrysler was the original innovators of fuel injection in the early 50s. And they were the last one to actually have it as a standard on their car. Pretty impressive. 76 was the last good Camaro for, yes, actually, because in Smokey and the Bandit, all those Trans Ams are 76 Trans Ams, not 77s, because the 77s they couldn't do the stunts with. They weren't fast enough because those still had the 454s in them, the 77, so they were able to hop them up. This 76, the 77, they went to the 400, and the car was an absolute pig. So, and then they came out with the turbo one, which we will not speak of. Why did Chrysler go to Sugar Honey Iced Tea? Well, that's a great question. It's multifaceted, I think. A lot of it is to do with they were the engineering company. So they did some projects like the turbine car that cost millions of dollars. The early 60s, and we were just coming out of a recession, and they made turbine cars that were incredibly expensive. Like they could have developed an entire line to instead of these turbine cars. And they weren't able to use them. So they crushed most of them. They made 50 of them, and I think 3 exist. I've actually seen one. Freaking wild car. Then you had the weird branding, because then you had Virgil Exner, the most evil designer ever to known by mankind. He helped design the cars in 61 because he had a new thought. And he came out with the Valiant. They made the Valiant a separate line. That cost a lot of money. They developed the 170 slant 6 for the Valiant and found out the car engine was way underpowered to be on any usefulness. So they had to go back to the drawing board, build a 225. And Virgil made really ugly cars. And they really never hit the explosion in the early 60s to, catch up with Ford or General Motors. And that was really a big part of the problem with Chrysler. They were run by bean counters, and a lot of times the cars would have things that were just subpar in them. Like my car, the electrical is an embarrassment. They use wiring that should never be used in a car. It's very, very light. It burns up. They're known. They the whole pass through for the firewall. It's a fire starter on these things. They cut corners. They're engineering company that cut corners, and they also missed out on the muscle car market because the Barracuda beat the Mustang to market by a few months. But you had a bunch of very old, dull men running Chrysler at the time, and Ford had a young guy named Lee Iacocca, and he actually heard what the young people wanted as a fun, like they saw the European cars and they wanted something. That's why the Mustang came out, and it was just nothing but a Falcon, but it looked better. The Barracuda, they took the Valiant and they put the heavy back window on it, but they never made it where it could have dual exhaust. They never made it so it could have wide tires because it still had that weird corner panel. And the car just flopped. The first 3 years of the Barracuda just were a flop. And also with the muscle cars, they missed out. They got crushed. They had better engines than anybody else. They had the 413, they had the 426, they had the 383, they had the Hemi, but they didn't have a car to put it in that was cool. The GTO came out and caught Chrysler completely flat-footed. They had nothing to answer with. It was nothing. The Chrysler cars from 64, 65 are the most forgettable group of cars you'll ever see in your entire life. They are bland. If you describe taxi cab, just put in Google, it'll show a 65 Dodge because it literally is a bland car. And I think that's what really hurt them. They just spent a lot of money on things that weren't going to go sell at market, and also they came to the pony car way too late with the Challenger and the Barracuda, and it was supposed to come out earlier, but there was a strike. This body style for the Charger was supposed to come out in 70. The strikes screwed it. That probably hurt them most of all, because the 70 cars were pure carryovers, and what they did is they freshened up the bodies on them. They weren't supposed to be those. They were supposed to be this body style, because for NASCAR, they knew that this was more aerodynamic, and they were working on this when they did the Daytona and the 500. They knew that this type of style would work better at NASCAR. So, yeah, it's just a cacophony of oh yeah, and then of course the gas crisis 73, where they had nothing. They had no cars, because Chrysler, this is the death knell. Chrysler, unlike Ford or General Motors, did not have a foreign affiliate. I mean, they had Australia, but that really wasn't making economy cars. So the big thing with Chrysler is they had nothing, and so they had to get the Dodge Colt. That was their car, and it was awful. I mean, the Pinto outsold it all day long. With all the Pinto's problems, it still was a better car. And so they got crushed, because now they had just big, heavy cars that were, just not fuel efficient, and they couldn't be fuel efficient. They had this car, which by 73 was already looking old, because the new General Motors cars had come out, and the new Fords, the Starsky and Hutch car, and it looked so much more modern. And Chrysler just was caught flat dead. And that's why they just went bankrupt in 78. And it's a tragedy, but such as it is. Realize that Chrysler's now had, since that bankruptcy, it has had 4 owners. Four owners. They are so far from being Mopar anymore that it's sad. They've literally just they're not the same company by leaps and bounds. They're not the same company. So my allegiance doesn't exist there, because they disappeared in 1978. Let's see. G-Canada hates Chevys, but the black turbo Trans Am looked cool. Yes, but unfortunately, it could get outrun by a 318 car. DJ Garage stole my Holly 650 and put it in a stock 1982 Chevette. Once again, I could probably make that run. My Chrysler knowledge is amazing. Slow, painful process. I had high hopes with the Daimler acquisition and knew it was over when Fiat took control. Yeah. Mercedes just got, when they bought Chrysler, they thought they were going to be able to go into the American market and have a common man car. They just didn't realize what a mess they inherited, because they inherited a lot of garbage and a lot of old tooling, and just really, it was a minivan company at that point with really outdated trucks. And they tried, but they just never were able to pull it together and make it work. The Fiat thing is an absolute tragedy. That's a crime. Fiat gifted that company for $4 billion, and that is a gift, because they got everything lock, stock, and barrel, and they've done nothing with it. If you really look back, Fiat did no innovation at all. I mean, literally, their extent of innovation was putting a supercharger on the Hemi, or boring the Hemi out. I mean, they really did nothing Their idea of making a hybrid V8 was putting the stupid electric motor on top with a big belt. Everything about Fiat is despicable. Stellantis is just evil, just purely evil. So, yeah, and I may have a whole thing on why the Hemi shouldn't have died. So there's something there. Bye, G Canada. Let's see. Oh, Frank has to leave. It's almost a good time. Fun fact. We'll end on this. When Toyota entered NASCAR, they hadn't had a carburetor for 20 years. They poached engineers from Briggs and Stratton. And as some people would say that, they probably use Champion spark plugs because that's what you put in the lawnmower. Because that's usually what Ford or Chevy guys say. That's hilarious. Oh my God, I want to end on that super high. That's a super high funny note. That was wonderful. I'm glad for everybody that came around. This was a fun hour. I'll be having my merch up, and we'll be able to go and have some more t-shirt designs. Hope I can get my staff on that. It'll be really great. Just some fun stuff to wear, because everybody should have some cool things to wear. So, and I'm gonna have a bunch more videos out. I'm going to do a car thing tomorrow morning and get ready for my big car thing next weekend. I think everybody's gonna love this event next week, because I'm gonna do. It may take me weeks to put all this stuff out. I seriously, it's gonna be fun. In fact, when you leave, you do burnouts, and there may be a 15-minute burnout video, including my car, because this is needed. So yeah, thank you, Sky Spectre. I'm glad. Thank you very much. I'm glad you learned something. That's what I always say at the end. I hope you learned something, because I just want to. It just makes it fun for me. Yes, I'll see you Monday and with my other miscreant stuff. Thanks, Joseph. Thank you so much. All right. So with that, if you have a cool old classic car or a nifty sports car, or just something that's kind of fun to drive, take it out, because you'll make someone's day. It'll probably be your own. And I'll catch you down the road. Thanks a lot.